Yeah, thank God it's Friday. Still the ultimate morning show here on Raypower 100.5 FM with myself, Dima. Welcome from the network studio this morning because at this time we really want to let you know those stories that are making headlines. When we keep a date and we make a date, we keep to it. This is what it is this morning. So yes, let's get right to that newspaper review. Starting off with the Al Jazeera Nigeria newspaper. It says rising defection fever is the big story here. And this story says in one fell swoop, 9 senators join ADC. 12 reps dump PDP, Labour Party, NNPP, YPP for APC and ADC. Find details on who left where and where to where from page 9 of Al Jazeera Nigeria this morning. And to other stories here, UN Relief Chief slams $1 billion daily cost of war with Iran, page 20. And why Ayedatiwa can't seek re-election, according to court giving the reason there. The story is on page 5. Now, 100% gratuity matter, new welfare chapter for civil servants. The story is on page 4 of Al Jazeera Nigeria this morning. And ahead of 2027, Wike-backed PDP fixes date for presidential primary. Page 21 read. Chinese company threatens to deactivate Nigecomsat 1R over $11.44 million debt. That story is on page 7. And Eza Ezilo crisis, community seeks Ebonyi government's help to return after 18 years displacement. Page 16 read there. Troops kill ISWAP commander and 19 others in Yobe, also on page 16. And that's it from Al Jazeera Nigeria this morning. We'll be checking out next Daily Asset newspaper as we move on the newspaper review this morning. The big story from the Daily Asset newspaper is on meningitis, and it says Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Borno, 7 others high-risk state as the Plateau, Oyo, Cross River, Edo, Ekiti, Enugu, low vigilance areas, dry, dusty conditions, heightened outbreak, says agency. An expert link fast food and excess salt to heart disease and stroke. All the story you can read on page 2 of Daily Asset this morning. And before I proceed on the newspaper review, do let you know that we are actually live on YouTube right now, and it is Raypower Abuja on YouTube, where you can watch this newspaper review coming to you live right now from Raypower 100.5 FM. Now, continuing on more stories from Daily Asset newspaper, leprosy mission boosts patient care in Niger with 25 electronic beds. The story is on page 18. And Abaribe, Kingibe, 7 other senators exit parties join ADC. Lawmakers cite internal crisis in former parties. Akpabio distances ruling APC from opposition crisis. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. Meanwhile, Benue Security Fund Trust Fund Bill passes second reading. Page 24, you can read that one there. NNPCL cuts petrol pump price by 100 naira in Lagos now. Now also the price is at 95 naira in Abuja. Good one there. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. Senegal approves tougher anti-gay law as rights groups raises concerns, page 26. And over 20 schools set for 3rd Athletic School Games in Lagos, page 29. And lastly, Ira Star picks Wizkid, Tiwa Savage, Rema as goats of Afrobeat, page 16. That is a bit of entertainment you'll be seeing there. All right, now let's check out this Nigerian newspaper. The big story says, you can't run again. Court bars Ondo Governor Ayedatiwa. Judge cites Supreme Court ruling on 8-year tenure limit. Says completing Akeredolu's term counts in tenure calculation. Okay, so the story you can read on page 2 of this Nigeria. Over 3.7 million Nigerians displaced by conflict. This has rider to the story. IOM urges shift from relief to lasting solutions. Page 2 read also there. Abaribe seat threatened as Senate issues ultimatum over defection. 9 senators dump party. ADC overtakes PDP to become main opposition party in the Senate. The story is on page 12. And beside the nameplate of this Nigeria, global markets rattle as oil jumps over $100. Read that on page 5. And that's about it from this Nigeria. Checking out right now next is the Nigerian News Direct newspaper. The big story says era of Naira devaluation over, coming from Cardoso there, making that declaration as reserves hit $50 billion, says Nigeria recorded 200% surge in capital inflows between 2023 and 2025. Now, that story is on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. Nigerian Breweries PLC announces partnership to establish our pet processing plant. The story is on page 15. And Senate demands military base in Benue following resurgent terror attacks. Of the story now on page 12. Oyo 2027 plots to oust Adelabu thickens, ignites renewed internal crisis. Also, the story is on page 13. A new Electoral Act amendment ban dual party membership, prescribes 10 million naira fine. That one is also on page 13. And that covers the Nigerian News Direct this morning. Do let you know also that we are live on YouTube with Raypower Abuja as the handle. You can go there, join the conversation live, and also share your thoughts and contribution on this particular edition of the newspaper review this morning. Okay, now we'll be checking out next the Observer's Times newspaper, where we have the big story saying Britain rolls out red carpet, tightens security for Tinubu. UK imposes airspace and traffic restriction for Nigeria's president. And Metropolitan Police calls visit a historic occasion. That story is on page 1 of the Observer's Time this morning. Now, Fund extends loan application portal for requesting institutions. Page 3, read there. FCCPC tackles airlines over Yuletide fares, demands refund. Now read that story on page 6. FCT residents struggle with heat wave amid erratic power supply. Okay, that story is on page 3 as well on the Observer's Times newspaper. Dino Milaye, why Peter Obi cannot be Nigeria's president in 2027. Find out the reason from him on page 6 of the Observer's Times newspaper. Tambuwal resigns from PDP, cites internal crisis, is one of the story here on page 2. Troops kill ISWAP top commander Abu Yusuf, 20 others in Yobe. Page 8, read there. ADC accuses Tinubu of threatening governance as a game. Question his democratic credentials. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. And that covers Observer's Times big story for today. We'll be checking out now the Standard Times newspaper, where the big story starts on the subject of insecurity. And it says, Tinubu meets service chiefs, promises new equipment to tackle terrorists and bandits. Page 2, read there. Meanwhile, CBN extend time frame for banks to implement automated anti-money laundering systems. Page 2, read. FCCPC to announce sanction for 5 Nigerian airlines found guilty of price fixing. Page 3, read there. Court grants ICPC's request to assess, analyze devices recovered from El-Rufai's house. That one is on page 2. Now, the Police Service Commission promotes CP Jimo and Dantawaye Meikaba and 10 others. The story is on page 3. Court restrains Ondo Governor Ayedatiwa from seeking re-election. Page 2, read. Africa's greatest assets is its people. Interior Minister declares at AIG Public Leaders Program graduation. Read that on page 2. And I like that statement as well. Africa's greatest asset is its people. Okay, that's good. That story is on page 2 of the Standard Times newspaper this morning. Nine senator defects to ADC, page 3 read, and above the nameplate of the Standard Times paper this morning is the story on NGX says equity market recovers as investors gain 541 billion naira. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. A little bit of entertainment story. Tonto DK faces 200 million naira lawsuit over school deliverance video. Read our story on page 8. Now, on alleged cyber stalking, court threatens to revoke Showere's bail. Also on page 8. And that covers the Standard Times this morning. Let's take a very quick break, come back with the business story, which will be taken from the Business NG.
This is the newspaper review.
All right, now we'll go straight to the business story from the Business NG. Court approves ICPC forensic access to Aerofy seized devices, page 2. 2 weeks to go. Keystone, Polaris, and 4 banks yet to clarify capital strategy. Unity Bank, Providus merger advances as court hearing resumes today. The story is on page 2. Federal government halts petrol import permit as local refineries boost supply. Page 2 as well. Now, power crisis looms as gas suppliers cut supply over 3.3 trillion naira debt. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. And of course, Ondo State imposes new entertainment tax on school events, sparks public debate. Page 2 read as well. NNPC cuts petrol price, 100 naira drop in Lagos, 95 naira in Abuja. Page 2 there. And UK tightens security, restricts airspace and roads ahead of Tinubu's state visits to Windsor Castle. You can read that on page 2. That's about it for the business story from the Business NG, and that's about it for the newspapers that we are checking out today. We've looked at Abuja, Nigeria, Daily Asset, Standard Times, This Nigeria, Observer's Times, Nigerian News Direct, as well as the business story from the Business NG. Dominant in all of these papers, or most of the papers, is the story on the defection of so many parties, which is quite interesting. Now, there was another interesting incident which we also checked out here. I mean, the was it now the House of Reps that had said earlier that we are going to fine. One of the papers carried that issue on fine for the that is coming from the Nigerian News Direct. Says new Electoral Act amendment bans dual party membership, prescribes 10 million naira fine, and in addition to that, 2-year jail term. Now that is saying that if you are a card carrying member of one party and you happen to be in another party that is dual party, that you will be banned. And it seems as if, according to some of the speculation, that this is probably why some are really making their move on time, and the need to avert such is quite very important to a lot of the parties. But yes, we can see a whole lot of movements from various parties. 9 senators defecting. I think about, is it 12 now from the House of Rep, all defecting to various parties. And it looks as if, like also what the paper also reported this morning, that the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, is standing as a very strong opposition party against the PDP that everyone probably had thought. I had thought that the PDP was going to stand strong, when, in terms of challenging this ruling APC. But it appears that the PDP is still trying to get itself in order. And as it stands now, the Wike-led faction of the PDP seem to be the recognized party, and that is also trying to work on its own primaries, like one of the papers reported. Okay, that is coming from the Al Jazeera Nigeria, that Wike-backed PDP fixes date for presidential primaries. So let's just say that is a move from a PDP party working towards establishing itself and being ready for 2027. But then ADC appears to be one of the strongest opposition parties that we have now. And now that begs the big question: what can the AB, or what will the ADC offer? What will be more interesting on the ADC that will make one say, okay, I'm going to vote for the ADC, I'm not going to vote for the APC? What will the APC say that will make one say, I am going to? So these parties' manifestos and their plans, their campaign is one thing that every party seem to or is expected to start planning on right now and start working on that. So yes, believe it or not, the electionary year, we are here already, and the campaigns and all of the movement, they are already here, and we are working on it. So it really is a huge wake up call for other parties that are yet to put their house in order to really do the needful, so that we can all know what to expect from each party, who we are looking at to be the representative, make the proper assessment, and know how far to move on the matter. That's basically it. And the issue of insecurity is still one thing that is still really dealing with us as a country. And the Standard Times newspaper reports that Tinubu meets service chiefs and promises new equipment to tackle terrorists and bandits. New equipment. Look forward to that. Hoping to see what that will really say and how far that can also go, because somebody once said during one of the calling segments that when these things are established, kind of unrest or whatever it is that is established, is always difficult to totally eradicate it from your country, but we can always bring it down to the barest minimum, and that is what we should be hoping to achieve at this moment, bringing down the spate of insurgency, insecurity that we have been facing in the country to the barest minimum. Hopefully that we will be able to achieve before I mean, maybe let me be hopeful and say before 2027. I'm just going to say it like that. I don't know, think what you will, but that is how I'm going to put that. Okay, now the Observer's Times newspaper reported something here that said FCT residents struggle with heat wave amid erratic power supply. Who dey FCT as it stands now, we know they feel heat. Even if you have AC, there is no coolant, let me put it that way, that you have that will save you. Because if it is not that there is no light, it will be that maybe the fuel price is just too much that you can't afford to buy that. So we are all dealing with this heat that is really dealing with everybody in the FCT. And the big question about stable power supply continue to stare us in the face. We're still asking the question, when are we going to get stable power supply? When are we going to get it right? Especially in a season like this. It's not one season where you get to ask the question. And I don't want to know anything that might say, oh, it is heat, water level don't dry for inside dam. No, let that not be the case, because it's something that we know is something that reoccurs. It's a continuum. So why can't we have a measure to always curtail that? Just try as much as possible to curb that situation. The FCT is very hot. Honestly speaking, if you are not in the FCT, well, this is the story for you. It is very hot. I don't know about your own area, but that's what we really face here, and it's quite huge. But it's good to know that NNPC has done regarding the issue of the fuel prices, removing 95 naira for Abuja and 100 naira in Lagos. Good one, good development. But then again, from the reports here on the papers, it doesn't look as if the issue with the US Iran Israel war is coming to an end, which is what is inadvertently affecting us as a people and affecting our petrol prices and all of that. So, what more can we do besides a reduction? Are we going to maybe tap into the reserves? Are we going to work harder to see what we can get, to to sustain ourselves? Some of the paper reported the fact that we are doing well with our local refineries. Let's begin to see more results on that, and in order for us to say comfortably, we can withstand the heat that is coming from other nations. When when they say if this country sneezes, this other one catches cold. I bet we don't want to catch the heat more, as the other countries are really coughing as it stands at this moment. But before I wrap up, let me just take a little bit of this entertainment story from the Standard Times that says Tonto DK faces 200 million naira lawsuit over school deliverance video. Did you see the video? If you are very constant on social media, one of the people also reported one of the actresses, one who was really out there recently on a controversial matter, who also came out to ask, the authorities to please go check it out. Why is she doing, that deliverance on her? Now, seeing this lawsuit, facing this matter, I really want to ask the question: was authority granted before this action was taken, before this activity took place on the school ground? And according to some questions raised online by some people, which are quite valid questions, asking, where were the school authorities? Because the coverage of the video really didn't show much. Maybe they are behind the scene, I don't know. But the image we are seeing, the footage we saw, we didn't see like the authorities, the school authorities, maybe, standing, one person representative standing around during the time of such a matter. But I do hope that that will also be resolved, and everything would be sorted out peacefully. That's about the papers that we've taken out this morning. We've checked out the Al Jazeera Nigeria, Daily Assets, Standard Times, This Nigeria, Observers Times, Nigerian News Direct, and the Business NG. So do well to go through this and more other stories that will be coming from several other papers, but these are the ones that we can manage with the time that we have. Do check them out and find out the stories on yourself for yourself. But I'm not going to wrap up this conversation this morning without wishing you a beautiful Friday, and also letting you know that, I don't know, you may know, but today, Friday 13, is generally considered an unlucky day in the Western world, in the Western culture, particularly because of the number 13, which is considered an unlucky number. You remember hotel room 13, or maybe avoiding to build the 13th floor, and all of those stories that go with it. And also the fact that Friday, kind of according to the Christian belief, is seen as a day of suffering because of, the death on the cross on that Friday and all of that. But it is considered an unlucky day. And this kind of a day, Friday 13, is something that usually happens like twice or three times in an entire year. So it's witnessing this one. I'm just going to let you know that in case you believe on something like that, try as much as possible not to. I'm just wishing you a beautiful day this Friday. This Friday, even though it's considered unlucky, is going to be lucky for you. But one thing about this Friday the 13th drama and story is the fact that some horror movies, if you are the kind of person who watch horror movies a lot, is really based off of this one. There is it the 1980s movie now called Friday the 13th that eventually became like a series, or was it a serial? That story is based off of this. So just to let you know, today is quite a remarkable day in history for the Western culture. In some other places, 13 is a very lucky number. So just wishing you a great day, regardless of what the calendar says. My name is Dima. Thank you so much. We'll be taking you now to the network studio to bring you the news on the hour and a few more conversations. But don't forget that Fact File will be coming your way at 8:30, and it will be based on sports, because today is Friday and we are looking at entertainment and sports. Political platform will be here by 9:15. You don't want to miss that. And we'll also be live on YouTube as well at Raypower Abuja. And also at 11:05, we'll be bringing you, guess what, with Dima, myself, and that also will be going live on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dima. Have yourself a beautiful and a lucky Friday.